This time of year, emergency officials across Illinois are encouraging everyone to know about earthquakes. Sabat Abbasi of the DuPage County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management is here to tell us why you should take earthquakes seriously too. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Illinois is not known, especially for substantial earthquakes. Is this still a risk that we face?
Absolutely. I know earthquake is not something that we think of it, but because of the seismic activity that we see all across the country, there is a seismic activity in southern Illinois and central Illinois. And so the aftershocks of such activity could reach up to this part of the state. So we need to be aware. And then the second side to that is if you are traveling to somewhere where earthquakes happen maybe on a regular basis, then you need to be aware of what steps to take to keep yourself safe.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the things you should do before an earthquake to be prepared.
Now, before an earthquake happens, if you are in an area where earthquakes do happen, there are a number of things you could do. Some of the basic things you could do are making sure you anchor items into the wall studs, so such as bookshelves, picture frames, so that if the walls start shaking, they don't fall. And then also securing the water heater with wide metal strap around the top attached to the wall stud so that they don't break apart. And then knowing how to turn off gas utilities. If you know there's an earthquake happening, maybe you should know how to turn off gas utilities, have the proper tools to do that. And then as we talked about it earlier, get an emergency supply kit. Have a family emergency plan. And be informed how you can receive additional information. And then also, if you have been trained in first aid in other areas, maybe get involved in the community so that you can help keep other people safe.
So earthquakes could be just another thing that you're prepared for with that emergency kit?
Exactly. So having an emergency supply kit helps you be prepared for a lot of different things. And earthquake is one of them. So keeping copies of important documents maybe away from your home in a safety deposit box. So like copies of birth certificates, marriage licenses, and other important documents. Storing them. And then also having food, water. Especially for earthquakes, you want to make sure you have a whistle in your kit. So if you do get trapped somewhere, or if you do need help, you can blow the whistle to let the rescuers know that they need to come and get you. So there are a number of things you could do. One other important thing is practicing earthquake drills. Practice the drop, cover, and hold. The more you practice in different areas, the more you learn that what works and what doesn't work, especially if you have family members that have limited mobility and such.
So if you do find that you're in an earthquake, say you're visiting somewhere in California and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in an earthquake, what should you do?
So there are three things you should do. Drop, cover, and hold. So you should, if you are inside of a building, you should drop to the ground, cover yourself. If you can move safely, go under a sturdy object such as a table, and then hold on. Now, by far, what happens is during an earthquake, people think they can outrun or move, but that is something you should absolutely not do. So again, drop, cover, and hold.
Is the whole, I don't know, is it a myth that doorways are safer places to be?
Yes, that is a myth because doorways, they don't protect you, from moving objects. Because as you know, with earthquakes, the floor is shaking. You never know if the door is going to crack and there's items moving. So again, you should drop, cover, and hold under a sturdy object so you can protect yourself. Now, if you're outside, if you're driving, let's say, what you should do is you should pull your car over, remain in the car, and make sure you have your seatbelt on, and make sure you're away from power lines, trees, and other objects that may fall. So that's also to keep in mind is if you're outside, just be aware of the surroundings.
Okay, now after an earthquake, once the shaking has stopped, what are the first things you should do?
One of the first things you should do after an earthquake is to make sure you're okay. You're safe, there aren't any injuries that you've sustained. And two, you should make sure you can reach out and call for help. If you smell gas, immediately call 911 because that is something that could happen. A gas line could break. So you should be aware of those things. And make sure you always have your cell phone with you. Call or text to let your loved ones know that you are okay. Give them your location so if something does happen, rescuers are able to get to you. So that's one of the things, is just being aware of your surroundings, making sure you can let people know that you are safe and you have a way of getting additional alerts after the earthquake.
What are some of the biggest types of damage or hazards after an earthquake?
So one of the most common things is fires. Fires are associated with earthquakes because, as you know, after an earthquake, things could fall. They could catch on fire. You could have explosions. With moving objects, if you get injured, well, they're going to fall on you and they can hurt you. So, that's one of the common things, is you either trip, fall, but it could be power outages. And if you are someone who relies on power, well, that is going to be something you really have to plan for. What do you do if the power is out and you don't know how long it's going to take for the power to be restored?
Okay, so again, tips or things from your emergency kit that you would use for, tornadoes or flooding or other things could also come in handy then?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing, cell phones, when you call someone, especially during a disaster or after a disaster, the cell phone towers may be overwhelmed. So understand the technology and learn how you may be able to text someone. Learn how you may be able to get alerts, monitor local news and other types of emergencies. We do have the U.S. Geological Survey. They have an emergency notification service where you can get alerts about earthquakes. Now, obviously, they can't predict earthquakes, but they could still provide you some information. So maybe signing up for a service like that. And residents can visit our website at protectdupage.org to get a link to that.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you giving us some tips on being prepared for something that probably not a lot of Illinois residents are prepared for. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.